Let's move along now to the Big 12, a conference that, I mean, who wants to win this thing? Right now it's TCU, right? Oklahoma trying to get back in it. And as they've got a big, huge Week 8 matchup, they survived Week 8, but they dropped behind Notre Dame in the latest AP poll. We asked Oklahoma insider John Moss if there is concern in Norman that the Sooners need to do more than just win in order to stay in the playoff discussion.
That's $1 million question. It's one of those where it depends on who you ask. It depends on what school of thought you're in. Ohio State's ranked in front of them, and they went up to Columbus, Ohio, and beat the Buckeyes earlier in the year. So, in my opinion, they need to do a little bit more. I think what we're seeing right now is the classic example of a team that plays to the level of the competition they're facing. And maybe not for an entire game. You look at the second half of the Kansas State game, that was a different OU team than we saw in the first half. The only complete game the Sooners team has put together is that trip to Columbus. I think they need to start doing that a little more often. It needs to start this Saturday against Texas Tech, which is going to present a problem because OU's weakness is the secondary. We know Texas Tech's strength is throwing the ball around the yard. So I think they need to start winning games a little more impressively, put a full 4 quarters together more than just one time this season in order to get themselves in position in the rankings to possibly make a college football playoff berth.
All right, John, thanks very much. So, B-Mac, do you think the struggles for Oklahoma to close out games has something to do with this roller coaster ride with a new first-year head coach in Lincoln Riley?
Well, I won't say that because he's been a part of this team for quite some time. He understands the players on the offensive side especially. But we've seen this story before with Oklahoma when Coach Stoops was the head coach. They have been inconsistent, but they can win a ball game. For teams that they're supposed to dominate, they have struggled. But they'll pull a late game play out of the hat and come through with a big-time win. But right now, when you're looking at what's going on throughout all of college football, especially in the Power 5, if you have one loss and you're playing in the Big 12, if you expect to get into the playoffs, number one, you have to win your conference. But number two, you need to have style points be a part of your victories, especially against teams you're supposed to dominate. Kansas State, that was a last-second score by Oklahoma. They struggled to Baylor, who lost to Liberty at home. They lost to Iowa State at home. They struggled against an inconsistent Texas team a week ago. So they have struggled, but they're winning ball games. But that will not stand when you look at how the committee view the 4 best teams in the country. So for them, they got to win their conference if they have any expectations in getting into the playoffs. And even if they do that, guess what, Ray? That might not be enough, depending on what happens with the other elite teams that are fighting for a top 4 spot.
Oh, my gosh.
Think about that.